So there are really challenges. There are challenges. Now, we could stand here and we could articulate many, many challenges. And many of those challenges will be externally focused. We could actually talk about political processes. We can talk about resource allocations at very high levels. But that's not why we're here. I'm actually here, I want to turn the lens on us. So I would like to actually discuss 5 distractions that I think we have had. So I would like us to embrace some things that we could be doing better. This is not to the exclusion of other issues that are going on that maybe others could also be doing, but I want to talk about 5 distractions. And then I'm going to flip to say, from a population health lens, what are 5 different ways in which we can do things? So let me jump into the 5 distractions. Number 1, we have, whether we like it or not, become enamored with the notion of the individual and predicting about the individual. And this is a real challenge, and we sort of have embraced this wholesale. Certainly at the national level, the initial waves around the precision medicine initiative, and this has shifted quite a bit since it launched. So it was very much in this mode of thinking. But let me just say, what implications did this have for our thinking? Let me just show you one slide. So this is a slide. This is a film study that's from the Framingham study, which we run at the Boston University School of Public Health, so I feel like I can pick on my own. This slide looks at the genotype score, and the genotype score is essentially we're combining a bunch of SNPs. It's a more sophisticated way of saying it's not just one gene, it's a genotype score. And on the y-axis, you have cumulative diabetes, right? So what you see is genotype score less than 15, 16 to 20, 21. And you see this beautiful dose-response curve, right? This is like Epi 101, dose-response curve. Now, when you look at that, almost inevitably, what do you think to yourself? See the genotype score? You're like, I wonder what my genotype score is. Right? I mean, come on, admit it. Like, that's what you think. But of course, you know somewhere in the back of your mind, but we keep forgetting that that slide is entirely compatible with this slide, which is also in the same paper. Genotype score on the x-axis, and 2 curves, people with diabetes, people without diabetes. Now look at the genotype score. Now, do you think that your genotype score matters? No, of course not. Because genotype score does matter, but it matters at the population level. But it actually matters hardly at all for me as an individual. When we focus only on the individual, we forget this fundamental theorem of the science behind population health, which is that observations at the population level don't matter so much for the individual, and as a result, we need to keep our thinking at the population level. Let me ask you this question. What measure of association, what relative risk or odds ratio do you think you need at the population level for it to matter in the individual? 2? 4? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but come up with an answer in your head. 6? 10? How many of you have published papers with an odds ratio of more than 10? A couple. If anybody in the country does it, it's you all, because you find out real things. So it's actually cool. So right, what odds ratio do you need? Well, the answer is 350. So this is from a great paper by Margaret Becker and her group. And look at the bottom right, odds ratio 350 is where you actually have curve separation. So, distraction 1. We need to make sure that we maintain our thinking at the population level, and that whatever we do, we never let keep our eyes off the prize. And this is not in any way a critique, I just want to be clear, not in any way a critique of precision medicine, personalized medicine, simply saying that these things must always be balanced with our focus on population health, and that our science helps us identify population needs, not individual needs. Distraction 1. Distraction 2. And this is where epidemiology really takes a beating. So we are obsessed with isolating individual causes. Actually, estrogen replacement therapy was killing women. So like, okay, small mistake there. Then, nutritional supplement, ginkgo biloba associated with lower incidence of dementia, observational data, until we do experimental studies saying, oh, actually, just kidding, it does nothing for your dementia. It's like you keep forgetting to take ginkgo biloba. And of course, the granddaddy of it all, beta-carotene, associated with reduced risk of lung cancer, until with an experimental study and said, oh, actually, sorry, it's killing people. So why is this? Every single one of these studies, these are good studies. They are internally valid studies. They are done well by good people, representing data as best as they can. I want to be very clear on that. These are internally valid studies. The problem with all of them is that they're trying to isolate a single cause while adjusting for the world that cannot be adjusted away. Because populations are complex, and they embed reciprocity, discontinuity, spatial relationships, all of which you cannot adjust away. Remember my first 4 slides I showed you when I said this is obvious and you're going to be rolling your eyes? That's why I showed you a picture of population. Because what we're trying to adjust away are those very real characteristics that you just cannot wash away. Now what does this lead to? Well, it leads to this. This is the infamous cartoon that today's random medical news is that coffee causes depression in twins, and or equally well could have said smoking causes heart disease in low-income and two-income families. Just the other day, of course, as everybody knows, a big paper came out which made a splash, again from my institution, that said that diet soda is associated with what was it? Something bad. Alzheimer's. It was great. I was at a dinner the night before, and somebody casually over dinner said, "Oh, it's okay. I'll just wait till tomorrow until they publish the other study saying it's protective." I mean, people are laughing at us. It's pretty bad. It's embarrassing. And the reason for the problem is that we are trying to isolate things that are not isolated. Why is that? Well, here, this is from the Foresight Group in London. This is a systems model of what's driving obesity. And this model is pretty complicated, right? But if you really, you probably can't read it, but there are things like energy expenditure, your will to eat, energy in, energy out, right? And when you look at something like this, you say, wow, if that's really what causes obesity, it's pretty hard to isolate a single cause and to wash everything else away. You just have to pause for a second and reflect on how complex the world is to realize that actually washing things away is probably not the right approach. And of course, then you realize even more how much is the case when you realize that I'm actually not showing you the full model. That's just the inside of that model. That's the model of obesity. And of course, there's probably simplifications. So distraction 2. We keep trying to isolate causes when we are dealing with complex systems that don't lend themselves easily to simple isolation. Point 3. We argue a lot about what is a cause. We argue a lot about attributing things to particular causes. And these arguments are really consequential for funding flows. So this is from a classic paper from CDC. This is from Bill Fagey, who was mentioned earlier, and Mike McGuinness. And they initially published their initial paper, which was then updated by Dr. Spogdad and colleagues. They published a paper that showed that tobacco, poor diet, alcohol, microbial agents, toxic agents are what they call the actual causes of death. So they moved the discussion from saying the causes of death are heart disease, lung disease, etc., to saying it's tobacco, poor diet, alcohol consumption. This was a very important paper, but it actually ended up being one of the foundations of the healthy people thinking, and it shifted our focus from the pathological, the end cause of death, to a little bit more upstream. So taking this paper as a base, we eventually did a paper. If you actually read the Bill Fagey editorial that accompanied the Ali Mokhtar paper in 2003 that we did this, in it, Bill Fagey said, well, one of our next big challenges is to try to go a little bit more upstream and quantify a little bit more upstream. So it took us 7 years listening to Bill Fagey's challenge, and we did that, and we published a paper which came out and showed, using the exact same methods, attribution of death to low education, low social support, racial segregation, income inequality, poverty, etc., and showed that you can quantify about the same number of deaths as from low education as from acute heart attack. Same number of deaths from low social support, 179,000, as much as stroke, 167,000. So you see the two columns just to show comparability. And when we published this paper, we knew what would happen. One of those things was entirely predictable, which then erupts a furor about, well, this is not a cause. That low education is not a cause. Low social support is not a cause. Just like if you actually were to go back saying, well, tobacco is not the cause, toxic agents are not the cause is your blocked artery. And we spend a lot of time talking about this. And I actually think this is just time wasted. Of course these are all causes. Of course tobacco is a cause. Of course poor diet is a cause. Of course low education is a cause. Of course income inequality and poverty are causes. These are all part of complex causal webs. And we are simply misspending our time if we keep trying to think about isolating simple causes and trying to think about some fairly artificial definition of what is a cause and what isn't a cause. In epidemiology, there's a robust literature that says we should only think of causes as things that we can change, which is utter nonsense. Because A, a cause is not dependent on whether we can change it or not. It is or it isn't. And B, how many times in history have we said we cannot change something only to turn around and change it the next day? Now, I have good news on this, or bad news depending on your perspective. We've been arguing about things like this in public health for almost 200 years now.